morning, everybody. Um, Again, we have another special episode of the Marfan Homie. This is Eli, the Marfan Homie, of course. So, like I said, we have another special episode today. We have a special guest. She goes by the name of Miss Jamie Cheyenne. Um, but before we bring her to the forefront, you know how we do. We do a little recap to what's going on since the last time we recorded or the last time we've seen each other. So what's happened since? What's happened since the last time I recorded? I think I went to a wedding. I went to a wedding a couple weeks ago. Um, what else happened? I don't know. That was the most important thing. The next thing is how's the month going? The month is going good. As we can see, we're back on the podcast. I got somebody else to interview, so this is very good. We're on the up and up. And let's go through that. How's work going? Work going good. As I told you guys a couple podcasts ago, I'm on the I'm on the lead some program, like a leadership program. I'm almost done with it. I'm on creating my capstone presentation. And I'll say that group work is really hard, but of course we're trying our best to get it done because we're all working professionals. But yeah. So skip all that. Good. I hope you guys got it all. So like I said, today is a very special episode. We have a very special guest. Like I said, her name is Miss Jamie Cheyenne. So let's go ahead and welcome her. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Eli, for having me.
No problem. So yeah, like I was saying, go ahead and tell the crowd a little bit about yourself.
So basically, I am a visual storyteller, photographer, videographer, and I also have Marfan syndrome. My sister and myself, we're 4 years apart, and my father had Marfan syndrome, so obviously me meeting Eli was a journey of trying to discover more people who look like me, who have this very unique condition. So I'm super happy to be here and happy to get into this conversation.
All right. Again, as you heard it, guys, Miss Jamie is a fellow Marfanite, as the Marfan Foundation called us. Marfanite, fellow Marfanite, and as you can see, I was gonna ask that. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, who in your family had Marfans? But you said it. Your father did. And again, it's the same for me. Passed down from my father. Do you know if someone before him had it?
Yes. So my grandfather had it. The running, tale is that my grandfather was like 6'9", I want to say. Yeah, he was super tall, and my dad was 6'6". So my sister is 6'1". I'm 6 foot. So here we go. The genes are strong.
As anybody else would say, just seeing us on the street, y'all got a whole team of basketball players over there.
Pretty much.
But so your granddad was 6'9".
Mm-hmm.
That's tall. That's NBA height. So let's see. Oh, well, I forgot to get the icebreaker, but again, who needs it? What else? All right, so let's see. Let's get into it, right? So again, you said that your grandfather had it, your father had it, your older sister has it, and you have it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess like my question was going to be like, how did your family know or come across like, or again, your sister was first, but like, oh, they have Marfans, or like, oh, your sister has Marfans, but like, did your dad know, like, did he know from like birth, or did he know at like a certain age? Like, what was that finding out? Like, oh, there's a family of Marfans, like a lineage of Marfans. What was that like?
So I think the finding out was pretty much the sob story. So essentially my grandfather, like I mentioned, had it, but I don't think in that time it was really like prevalent or well known as to what it was.
Mm.
So he didn't know. And, well, I'm not going to say that he didn't know, but he did not disclose that to my grandmother. So my grandmother raised my father and his sister, who did not have Marfans, which I wanted to state.
Okay.
She just raised them with no real understanding, because once my father met my mother, they met in the army. So I think the cute story is that they fell in love while they were stationed. And I thought it was interesting that my father was in the army, but it kind of gives context, right, to the story, because my mom was an army nurse and my dad was a part of the service in another capacity. I'm not really clear as to what, but
Okay.
I do recall my mom stating that she didn't know what his status was because the mom didn't know. But it was found out later because my father was very athletic. He loved to play basketball. He loved to run. He loved to do all the things that the Marfans Foundation will tell you not to do. So
Really?
I guess the climax is that once my mother and father were married, they had their first child. My father went in for a routine like checkup, right? Found that there was a clot around his aorta.
Oh man.
So they went in to investigate, and unfortunately it ruptured and he passed away. So it was very, very sudden. It was incredibly like dramatic. My mom was pregnant with me at the time. So like I said, it was a very like stationary, like just generic check-in. It was not supposed to be like the end of my father's life. So everybody was really shaken up about it. But you know, some origin stories get a little hairy, and I think that Marfans is just something that's not always taken seriously, but it is serious. And people do, you know, have situations in which they may neglect things, or they may know something but not really know what it is. So I found it very interesting later on, because this is the tea, right?
Wow.
We're all getting to know each other here. But I found later on that my father put out a life insurance policy, and he was 33 years old. So being that, you know, maybe he's welcoming his second child, he had an understanding that he should build a legacy and like have something for us to fall back on. But truth be told, I think that you know your body well enough to know that something's not quite right. And I think our conversation, you and I, Eli, kind of gave context to that in your story. Like you felt a very unique pain in your chest, like repeatedly. So you knew the moral of the story is like, know your body. There is a silver lining to all of this. Obviously, like I said, I was still in the process of growing in October when my father passed. I was born in February. So my mother, as an army nurse and given her very traumatic context, she advocated for us so hard when we grew up and understood what happened, right? Because now she has context. Now, you know, even though her husband is passed, she's like, well, what happened? You know, what was the situation, and why didn't we know about it? Why didn't we know what warning signs to look out for? What activities, you know, to avoid? To ensure that, you know, your heart rate doesn't go to a certain place that's not safe. So there's, you know, the background of things. But I do say that, again, there was a silver lining for my sister and I, just because we had a mom who was so, like, in love with who we were as people, that she wanted us to make sure that she showed up for us in the way that nobody could show up for my father, because they didn't know. So she made sure to educate herself. She made sure to educate us. And she didn't necessarily like phrase it like we were these fragile pieces of glass that couldn't be broken, but more so like we're, you know, delicate and fragile, and we should just protect ourselves. So that comes with its own, you know, layers, but that's pretty much how it all
that is condolences. However, that is That's crazy. That's a pretty crazy story. I mean, again, I don't even know what to say. But
Yeah.
so with that, so again, not well. My father passed more recently, but my
So,
mom, I would say like my mom, she as I came, she became knowledgeable in the sense that it's like, oh, both my sons have Marfans, and oh, I don't think my dad ever. No, that's not. Well, it's not that my dad didn't disclose. My dad never. He didn't really know
mm-hmm.
until he came to the States, and I think probably went to the doctor. Um, but yeah, I think my sister was telling me like my dad didn't even really like know that he had Marfans until he like came to the States, and then of course my brother was born.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 6, 7 years later? I was born, and they was like, oh, okay, let's take it more seriously and stuff like that. But salute to your mom. I mean, again, that's crazy. Um, so your dad never had any surgeries. Like again, he enrolled in the army, which is crazy. But
So even my grandfather, like I don't know any history of surgeries simply because like the most my mom will talk about my dad's like medical I would say shortcomings were when he was advocating so strongly to be a part of this like swimming division in the army. I don't really know all the details, but essentially he had to take a very rigorous swimming test and he could never like pass the finish line. So he would come really close, like he'd do it several times. And I think my mom pinpointed that particular story because it had some context for her to be like, something isn't quite, it's not the ambition. You know what I mean? I think it's a physicality that won't allow him to like pass through that barrier.
Okay. AKA probably got a shortness of breath somewhere along that test. Because, I could take 2 feet outside and I start breathing heavy. But no, I get that. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, so like, was your granddad in the army as well, or it started with your father?
To be completely fair, there hasn't been an extensive knowledge of my ancestors, but I will say
okay.
Father, like my father's side was more educated. Like that's you have context of. I believe my grandfather was a professor, and my grandmother was also an educator, and she was also a piano teacher. So it's like there's all these little, quirks and details. Like my mom and my dad are both musicians. Like my dad played the trumpet, and my mom sang.
It's just a family full of artistic people. I like it.
Artsy, so I think it comes natural. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. And this is I'm in shock because I've never heard a story like that. It's crazy. But so let me go to this. So when you were coming up, well, let me just ask it. So what was it like growing up with Marfans? And if you don't mind telling the people where you're from and where you grew up.
For sure. So because I'm an army brat, the cool part was I got to grow up in different places. Okay. So I felt like growing up, I don't think I stood out as much other than the fact that I was super tall, right? Like I think that worked out for me just because I was a girl and I wasn't that awkward for a certain point. Like it was kind of cute and I think the thing about being unique physically is that you have like a stage where it's super cute and then you have a stage where it's just like, I don't know what's going on there. Like you don't know how to put yourself together when you're a teenager. So it's like you're trying to bank on like your physical features to carry you. So if you don't have normal physical features or common physical features, especially for a girl, it doesn't give, the same grace as when you were little. So I say all that to say, when I was younger, and living in different places, there wasn't much bullying outside of actually being a Black girl, because I was like probably the only girl in my class who was Black, and maybe another Black boy. So I grew up in Seattle, Washington, and Kentucky. I love Seattle a lot more than Kentucky. But then we came to Maryland. We actually built a house here when I was a baby. So this is a place that my mother and my father really intended to raise us. Currently, and that is where I was raised for the most part. So like my mom was stationed in Maryland right before her retirement. So she retired here. And that was cool, but it was also like, oh, okay, well, I was used to kind of like, if I didn't vibe with somebody, I knew I would be leaving, you know? So now, from elementary school to middle school to high school, I was here in Maryland. And the interesting part about Maryland was that Prince George's County is actually the richest Black county in America. Okay. So it was beautiful that I was raised here, and I think my parents were very intentional about raising me here, simply because like where we grew up and the environments that the Army puts you in, you are going to be with whites, you know, which is fine, but it's not like here where you get a taste of everything. So like the DMV exposed me to the plethora and the beauty that is Black culture. And DC culture is just a very unique niche of, you know, Black history. So growing up here, it really helped me to like, you know, have some type of self-love, and empowered me to regardless of any like, you know, comments that I got, to understand like they were still coming from somebody who looked like me, which I think makes a huge difference. So yeah, I would say in the case of Marfans, people could identify that I was tall. Just to give you some context of my physicality, I've always been super like slender. Now I got a little, you know what I'm saying, like, but like, you know, back in the day it was pretty rough because I was developing. So I will say like my legs have always been really, really, it's awkward because my legs are super skinny, but my thighs are big. So it's like, I always try to wear like little skirts because girls do that. But I remember one instance specifically, there were two things in grade school that I think are important for this. So I'm just going to try to speed through. So I used to wear skirts with like high socks. And I would pull my socks intentionally over my knees because that's where my stretch marks were. And in elementary, having stretch marks, I was like, yeah, no, I don't know anything about what these are, but I do know that no one else has them. Yeah. So because my mom was a nurse, she kind of gave me context to be like, well, you know, with Marfans, your bones grow faster than your skin. So your skin is kind of catching up with the stretch marks. And I was just like, well, that's not convenient.
Not for me.
Not for me. No. At all. But yeah, the point is, I remember one day at gym, I was like getting hot and I was trying to like pull my socks down, but I had a moment of insecurity because I just looked at my like stretch marks around my knees. And this girl was just like, yeah, girl, put them socks back up because, you know, that's how the DMV was as well. Like, that's what I wasn't used to. People just stating their opinions. Like,
was she your friend or was it some random little girl?
This girl who was sitting next to me. So we had similar classes. It's interesting because we grew up and she ended up like paying me for a photo shoot. So, you know, life has a way of just helping you to understand. It gets better.
Man.
But yeah, no, it was no animosity. It was just a really random comment that she felt the need to say. And I was like, to this day, obviously I'm 30 years old and that happened in elementary school. So
I can recite a book of things that happened in elementary school. You don't forget things like that at all. Not at all.
And I mean, they keep coming. So middle school, It was more of like, there was, I think one thing that's interesting about this conversation is just that, like, a girl's perspective, although we may have similar experiences, it's not felt in the same way because you're a boy and I'm a girl. So the context, or like how we're like taught to receive it, is totally different. So the other instance was still in elementary school, because I'm gonna just try to be in chronological
order. Got it.
So in elementary school, someone approached me because they knew that I had Marfans. I wasn't really like shy about saying it. I was very close to my nurses when I was in grade school because my mom was a nurse, but it also allowed me an opportunity to like not people sometimes, which I didn't know at an early age I didn't want to do. So I would be in the nurse's office often. I think my condition was well known across the staff. So someone approached me to be a part of our morning show. We had this morning show at our school that we watched every morning, the whole entire student body. And we just talk about, announcements, like things that were happening that week, things like that. So they asked me to speak on, I think it was a field day, but it had a context of being like a health week, something like that. It was something health related that they wanted me to be featured on that period of time, just because that's what it was. So because it was field day, they were saying, hey, can you talk about how people with Marfans shouldn't like overexert themselves? And I didn't know, in elementary school that was kind of like putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
It was problematic.
Weird.
It was problematic, for sure. It was. And I'm letting it be known that all these problematic things came from the school system. Like most of them did come from the school system. And I think the way that the school system treats kids who are uniquely physical or mental is like, it's pretty messed up. And you should like take a closer look at that. So basically, I got on there super proud because I was raised to be proud of who I was. And I was like, yeah, my heart does this, and this is what like just spitting facts, right? Not being that was the early exposure to what we experience every day in this context, or this generation, of being like being misinterpreted or being like perceived in a particular way. So because I put myself out there in media, people were then approaching me like, oh, is your heart gonna explode? Like I got a lot of like, oh, is that your heart? When they're pointing to my collarbone, which protrudes. They're like, is that your heart? Like, is your heart, broken? Or is like kids,
and that's what I chalked it up to. I was like, there's a difference between kids and adults, and even some adults are like ignorant as well. But again, kids, that's, I think, like, I would say like that's why I wasn't as up front as you were in elementary school through high school, dang near through college, because again, it to me was still the like, I know I'm maturing faster than the rest of the people that are in my class because I feel that I need to, because I'm different than the rest of the people. And so like being that upfront, of course, cheers to the bravery and cheers to being proud, but that's, I think I did, like, again, more so like laid back to avoid those type of questions, because again, like something like that would definitely make me really, really nervous.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, you got that one, because I don't think I would be brave enough to do that in front of, again, the entire student body. That's bravery at its finest.
I'll chalk it up to blissful ignorance, to be fair. But I take it, and I thank you for that, because I think after that it was a little harder to like open up about that, because I didn't know how it would be received, like throughout throughout my upbringing, I did notice I didn't like a lot of attention because I would get it without really wanting it or really
Yeah.
knowing what, people saw, because a lot of the rhetoric that girls get when they come up is just like, either you're pretty or you should do this in order to be pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I remember the same school, because I can't even leave elementary school yet. But I remember the same school because I think, everybody goes through some level of bullying or some level of exclusion when they're younger. But for me, it wasn't super intense with Marfans just yet. It was more of like, noticing that I was taller than everyone. Really like playing on physical features that I had or how I wore my hair, whatever the case may be. That's super, I think, common. But I do recall going to a guidance counselor because I was feeling away, which is what the guidance counselor is for. And kids were making fun of me. They were calling me Snoop Dogg because the way that I wore my braids was giving that. And, didn't wear makeup then, longer face, like all of these things. And even the context of being a tall girl being related to a man, right? My name is Jamie, which is already a unisex name. So I get a lot of like little things like that, like, oh, Jamie's a boy name, or oh, Jamie Foxx, like just whatever.
Kids relating something that they know nothing about. Yeah.
What kids do. So I went to the guidance counselor and looking for solace. She told me something that, again, never left. It wasn't negative, but it was again, the context that girls get a lot, which is compare yourself. So what she said, what I was expressing to her was that I was being teased for being tall. They called me Snoop Dogg. They said all these things that made me feel away. And she was just like, yeah, well, so many people would wish to be tall like you. Like so many people would love to look like you. And I was just like,
I'll take it.
No, I'll take it because that's all I can take. Like that's all you gave me to take. You never gave me tools to say that you should love yourself, no matter what anyone says to you. Not to say that that's right or wrong, because everybody has different contexts. But being that this woman was a larger woman, a shorter woman, her context of my body type was based on her perception of me. It wasn't necessarily based on a universal truth that I could take throughout life. That I felt was positive for other people to exist in their bodies. Right? What she was telling me was just like, you should feel good about your height because other people aren't as tall as you. Which for me translates as, when I see somebody else who's taller than me, I should feel insecure again. Like there was no escape from my emotions at that point, other than to compare myself to other people, which was already something that I was doing. So I didn't find that advice helpful. Moving right along, middle school.
Let's move up in grade school then. Yeah. Let's move to middle school and high school. Again, as the people around you normally get taller, right? How did you ever think about what she said then as you moved to different, like middle school and high school? And of course, like, again, other students coming up in height as well?
So I'm glad you said that. I was still the tallest girl, no matter what. Like, I don't think that ever changed, even in high school. But what did change was the way I viewed my femininity, because I didn't have much. I didn't think that I was a pretty girl. Nobody called me pretty. Like, there wasn't that type of context. So I always thought I was just the awkward friend who had all of the pretty friends. So in middle school, it was more of somewhat of, I think that's where girls get a bit catty and they become like, they start to assassinate your confidence, right? If they see that you have confidence, it doesn't matter if you're pretty or ugly. Confidence is everything. So if you have it and somebody doesn't, and they think that they're prettier than you, they'll try to hurt your confidence. So a lot of my middle school experience was women like chin checking me, but because I think even like to my confidence in speaking on the live show was like, I was raised with a lot of like adult women, you know, like just people who were older than me. I had an older sister, so there was a lot of context that I had about like holding my own that I don't think a lot of kids do have in middle school or high school. So I think that helped me a lot to like not, you know, crumble and cry, even if I wanted to. You know, there wasn't a desire to do that. But in middle school, I do remember there was more prominence as to like my physicality showing up. So like my collarbone was always a big subject. We wore collared shirts, but they were kind of like small collars, so it wasn't like it didn't do anything for my body shape.
No, how would I do it? No, like no blending in of what's like going on. Okay.
Yeah. So I think for me, I think I became a lot more conscious of my body. So obviously your body changes, but I think I've always had a very prominent collarbone in terms of the shape or the look of it, but it didn't always seem like it stuck out. But I do think because like your weight fluctuates, or you just, things happen in your adolescence. So I think I was growing a chest and I didn't necessarily know how to protect that or keep that, you know, supported. So there was no like aesthetic. It was just like, I'm here. I'm still, you know, this lanky kid. I'm just now developing into this stage where I'm supposed to look like these girls who have older sisters who are wearing the makeup and who are, you know, like this, thank God, was before social media. But we were just getting content that really made young girls look a lot older. So we were like, you know, perming our hair and trying to like wear some eyeliner or just doing different things to try to accentuate our physical looks. I did watch your episode on feet, so I did want to touch on the shoes your girl was wearing in middle school and high school were the same ones. I'm telling you why though. I think people just, you know, anywho's, everybody grows up different. But what I received was a note from my mom because she was in the Army. She thought she could like pull a fast one on us. She was like, you just need 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, right?
My mom did that. My feet would run through shoes. Like,
it's lie. Nobody needs 1 pair of shoes. I'm sorry. Because your feet do a lot and they're responsible for a lot, it's best to take care of them. And a part of taking care of them is investing in good shoes that support you and feel good to you. So thank you for, you know, being brave enough to speak on that, because I get it. Feet were a big thing. But again, I think if you speak to my sister, I think her experience will be a little different because she has always voiced that she is very insecure about her feet. But she has always like made me feel seen in saying that you have really pretty feet, or they look this way. And I'm just
that's
like,
cool.
It's nice. It's nice. But I do feel like we're our own worst critic. So like when it comes to my feet and like progressing throughout school, it was a thing for me to notice that, just to give you some context, I feel like my left and right are completely different. I feel like my left is, the arch is a lot more prominent and the ankle isn't as fallen, like the arch isn't as fallen, but they are both just as flexible. So I think the details with Marfan's is that you have flexible joints. There's a chemical within your body that doesn't allow your joints to become like firm.
Basically.
So I always compare it to having bones in Jello. Like that's how it feels.
So with your foot, the anatomy of your foot. So dang. Compared to people without Marfan's, your ankle sits where it's like supposed to be, right? As far as like not like mine sits.
Yeah.
Like again, this is your ankle bone, this little joint right here. I have no ankle bone. Like, it's on the ground. Like, where's yours in comparison to like mine versus
Yeah.
someone else?
So, the best way I can explain it is just like if your feet are flat, they're just like this, but if they're arched, they're just a little bit like this. So I would say like my left foot is like this.
Okay.
So like you can see it, but the gag is the weird part about my feet is that I think I'm flexible enough where it looks like I have an arch if I'm not putting pressure on it.
Okay.
So normally it's like this one is flat, right? But my right foot is all the way flat, if not protruding. So the ankle is on the floor. And it's like, I wouldn't say it's a stark difference, but it's notable to me.
Right? Of course, you live with yourself 24/7, of course, yeah.
If I could, like have a choice, it would be to have both of my feet like my left foot versus it even being completely normal. Because I think I can like manage flexibility more than I can. Like you said, when your ankle is sitting on shoes, it's very uncomfortable. It does create a lot of friction. I wouldn't say that I have like terrible calluses or anything like that. I haven't had surgeries.
I was the only one that went through stuff like
never
this.
Never that. Because like again, I watched that episode. That was the first episode that really stuck out to me. So if y'all have that, please watch it because it's good. And it definitely gives you a lot of keys on like the difference between like wearing a high top shoe versus a low top. Like it's so much. And then I know you love this.
People don't understand. I'm trying to tell people.
Oh no, sir.
My feet don't
like shoes. What about heels? Okay. What about heels?
It's a whole nother level.
Excuse me. Women are told to wear heels in their like infancy. Like girls aren't you. You know what I'm saying? My sister and I both have a picture. We're in our aunt's wedding and we have on these like kitten heels because that's what they love to do to little girls. They love to put us in heels. But it's like, it's not giving that when you have fallen arches. I'm sorry. It's not. So I'm going to reel it in and just talk about middle school experiences and then get right into what I've been waiting for. To let educators know to really treat people who have unique physicalities very, very, not even very gently, but like be aware that you are in a position to speak life into people. So
basically,
please just do that. So
because my chorus teacher, he I don't know if you watched the episode or heard the episode, but what did he say? He was like, Elijah, do you eat? And he said this in front of like at least 5 other people. And I was just like, hey, again, to be truthfully honest, at the time, I'm just like, yeah, I eat. Growing up and looking back at that moment, I'm just like, I wish I had as smart of a mouth as I do now that like back then. Because there's no way I could have let you get away with saying a comment like that. Because again, now you're at the point where you're looking like a student being a bully. There's so many other ways that you could have pulled me aside and be like, is everything okay at home? And I would have been like, well, yeah, why? Because you're looking thin. I'm like, nah, you ain't got nothing. Like, it could have been so different. But I guess, I don't know, late bloomer. I don't know, but continue.
Thank you for sharing that, truly, because we do need to do a better job at like picking our school staff because there's a lot of unhealed people out here. So one thing that I talked to Eli about and have is like the importance of mental health. So all I'm saying is like trauma starts early and people experience things not only from kids but from whole grown adults. Okay. Yep. So if you're watching this and you're an adult, please just like, if you have young people in your sphere, speak life into them always. Do not criticize them. It's so unnecessary. So in middle school, I do remember standing in line and there were these 2 boys. I don't know if you've ever had this experience where you can feel someone talking about you or you can like,
all the time.
Like staring at you. So I'm just standing in line because food is my favorite part of the day. And I see somebody like looking at me, and I look to the side. What has always been very difficult for me is my profile, because I think that women were obviously, again, conditioned to believe that they have certain lines. They have certain lines when they walk, when they stand, when they do anything, which leads into my next story in high school. So middle school, I'm standing in line for lunch, see these two boys looking at me from my side, and they're like, that's just the face that they're making. They're just like confused as to what's happening on my chest region, just because I don't even know if it's that prominent, but I do know that it's not like
unless it was bigger than the average teenage girl, it doesn't look.
The point is, I've had a complex about this, right? My entire life, and I think that much like your video talking about your feet, people with Marfans do have complexes about different parts of their bodies, just because they are always magnified, you know what I mean, or made to seem or made to be deemed unlikable, just because how clothes and shoes and things don't really cater to how you look. I love a good turtleneck, but some of them do like literally suffocate me. But yeah, the point is, it was a journey to find like my own sense of confidence. There was another girl who would like continuously make comments about the way that I walk, simply because of the shoes that I chose, because they were comfortable. And to your point, like, do not, ladies especially, I don't care what your body looks like, I don't care if you have Marfans or not, please do not like put yourself in positions where you're uncomfortable because of how it looks. Because I think that we do that a lot as women, and we're taught to do that from a very early age, and it's not fair, because it just limits your ability to create your own sense of like style and you know, comfortability, and like just knowing what you don't like. So yeah, she also wasn't very happy with herself. So I didn't know that at that time. I thought she was like really coming for me on purpose, and I was just like, yo, what's your problem? And she stopped. You know what I mean? From then on, I think, you know, deep down, bullies just want to challenge people who aren't going to challenge them. So I just got tired of it one day, because I was just like, I don't know what this is about. One thing I will say, big ups to my generation, because they did not follow the rhetoric of bullying as it was being perceived on television, or maybe in generations in the past, but they didn't like rally along and like make me feel bad. So I'm glad for that experience. Middle school was rough, but we made it out. And high school is where things got a little weird, because not only are you introducing hormones, but you're introducing like being a hot girl, and it's like that's not really what it's giving for the awkward. There's no space, so you're either like a slut or a nerd. There's no in between.
There's no gray area. You're right.
Not at all. Okay, so I don't know where I went, but I would say that I probably wanted to be desired so much that I took the initiative of like paying attention to the cues, because from middle school to high school, there started to be like more interest from guys, not for my physical like body, but more so for my face. Like, okay. People are like, oh, you look cute. Like, you're, okay. You know, if I wore my hair a certain way, or if I like, wore lip gloss that day, they'd be like, you look kind of like you're kind of whatever. So, also, I forgot to say that I wore glasses from elementary school to now middle school. That's when the contacts came. Okay? So then it was like, the one I'm seeing myself in.
Look, I've never noticed you before. Who is this?
Who is this? So I got a lot of that, and that was a good. I think that was a good turn for me, but it was also like it was false confidence. A lot of that was just like people gassing you up because that's just what they were doing. So I will say that I was brought to reality in a lot of ways by the teachers, by like older people, because when I would go out for certain things like model couture, I remember I was wearing heels, and I just thought that's what you were supposed to do for a long time. Like, even when you were talking about the shoes, I would put shoes on with the context that they were gonna straighten up, or they were gonna look the way that they look on everybody else's feet on my feet. Because I didn't understand that like everything comes from you. Like even the, you know, the energy of confidence that you put behind what you put on, people can see it, you know, no matter what, no matter how good it starts to look. So I think aesthetically I started to like hone in on myself, but I still didn't know who I was internally. So I suffered a lot because I was like making decisions that were very surface level. But when it came to Marfans, I remember one teacher in particular just really, I think, took the liberty of like, I don't know, it was just really rude. That's all I can say.
A teacher?
Yeah, so I took a dance class because again, I was expressive. I was down to try things. I've always been a very adventurous person, but there have been times where I feel like, you know, I had to realize that like my nature doesn't thrive in every space. So like I just don't thrive in every social environment. So when I went to dance class, it would never like venture into dance club. Like I was in art club, you know, or poetry club or Christian club. But something more physical, it just seemed less like attainable for me, or that people were like down for me to be a part of that. So I took a dance class. I really enjoyed it. Took it with a few of my friends. And I remember the dance teacher kept making comments on like me not pointing my toes, or like something along the lines of like, you know, you need to improve on this. Like, why do I keep seeing this? So she walked up to me. We're all standing there, right? In the front of the class, there's mirrors everywhere, so everybody can see everything. And she walks up to me and she looks down at my feet and she's like, ew. And I was just, exactly.
A teacher?
Teacher. A dance instructor. And I was like, really? Because all I could do at the time, because my confidence was at an all-time high, so she couldn't like knock me if she tried. One, because I've grown. The point is, I just said, I just hit her with the like, you know what I mean? Like, it was comical to me because I was like, you're the teacher. Like, I didn't have, you know, a house. I could see if my household was doing that to me, but they weren't. So I realized like when you have like a good self-image about yourself, you don't even notice some of the things that people try to put on you as an attack of your like awareness. So there were moments like that where I felt like that could have been handled differently. But again, big ups to my class, because everybody was like, Squidward. Like, it was just really, the room felt silent. You know what I mean? It was silent because we were all like, can we move forward now? Because you had your moment of whatever you thought was going to rally other young people to ostracize this girl who has no authority over her physical being. How dare you? It was really just, it was not tasteful.
I don't even think the age of the teacher matters, but was this like a fairly young teacher?
This was an older woman. This was an older woman, had to be in her 50s at least at that time.
I don't know. Well, there's no justifying it. I'm just trying to figure out race, nationality. Like, what was she?
So, okay, this is what I didn't want to get into like super early, but like Black women, I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a lot of deep-rooted self-hate. There's a lot of deep-rooted, like I said, from my elementary school guidance counselor, a Black woman who was larger. Let's just be fair. Like, the world treats women so harshly. And then to be Black and then to have physicalities that aren't deemed like attractive, you're just given a lot of crap. And hopefully you came from a household where people lifted you up, but most of the time that's not the case. So a lot of people have these attitudes and demeanors toward other people that really look like them and share their struggle. And it's not a matter of like building them up. It is a matter of breaking them down because that's how we were taught. So I'm not going to say that that wasn't my upbringing, because in a way it was. So I was taught to like camouflage certain things, right? Like my mom never flat out said, you have very knock knees and you have very long toes and very this, that, and the third. She never like bullet pointed me down. It was very much like you could wear a long skirt. Like you could camouflage your body so that people accept you more.
You know what I would say, like with that, like again, my mom or like the parent picking out like your wardrobe and stuff like that. One thing that I would say, I love my mom because she didn't bullet point. And you're my mom. I don't expect you. Like you probably look at me and probably cry, as she said my dad used to sometimes, because he was more or less embarrassed because I got it the worst. So he would look at me and just be like, dang, what could I have done? Cool. But my mom never, like, I didn't know what knock knee was until I went to my aunt's house, and she's like, oh, you're knock knee like your dad. And I didn't feel nothing of it because my dad is very knock knee. However, camouflage, I figured out a way to like try to smooth that. But like my mom, what was I about to say? She never like one time my mom bought me flip flops. She was with the thong flip flops. I was just like, I don't know if you've seen what's going on here recently, but that's not gonna happen. But my mom, she was just honestly, and I don't think she thought anything of it. She was just buying me flip flops because we were going to Jamaica. She was like, you're gonna need these. And I was just like, you have no clue. But it's just like, she was like, I say that to say, like, again, have that support system where like your family and I say family at that point in stage because we're friends, I don't know. But your family to be that support system that still look at you as normal. And again, buying me flip-flops knowing dang well my toes are not sliding in anything, I found it more funny than I did like I guess disrespectful or whatever that is for like a 9 or 10-year-old. But that's crazy. I mean, again, I never really thought of like, I guess my mom, but I guess my dad did it, but my mom never really was like, you're gonna get these groceries from the car, all 50 pounds you're not supposed to be lifting. Like my mom really, she was very knowledgeable about what was going on, very doctor visit oriented, but she never really like dimmed the light on me, even though she didn't know that whatever was going on in school. But she never dimmed the light of like, she was like, come here, handsome, or just like, again, very like giving me that confidence that I need, because she's probably thinking like, I don't know what's going on in school, but he doesn't really talk about school, so I'm gonna provide him with whatever I can. So I mean, yeah, to definitely have that support system at home is very important, physically challenged or not, or however we would want to classify Marfans to other disabilities or conditions. But definitely just having that support at home is necessary.
I definitely agree. I do. Yeah, I think that's what carried me through all the school days. So again, I made it out okay.
I'm about to say, but however, when my mom became a flight attendant, it didn't really affect me in like middle school, but high school, I don't know why. I love my mom being gone, but I guess now looking at it, I'm like, dang. I don't know, because I think if she was at home more, those children were savages, I tell you. Probably would have cried more. Like came home to her and be like, you never guessed what these idiots said to me today. But again, so with that, my eldest brother moved in, and you know, that whole complex of just like, you did you say something back? Did you beat him up? This, that, and the third. So again, I kept a lot of that stuff like inside. Like again, I would defend myself. Like I'll have a couple good jokes, probably like every day. I have like two in the chamber, but after those two jokes, and they were the ones like kept going on. I'm like, dang. So like even then, I would try to like blend. I'll go home and tell myself, Elijah, you said too much today, as if I'm only supposed to have like a 50-word maximum, because I don't want to bring too much attention to myself.
Wow.
It was that was crazy. Like again, that was probably like the craziest part going through grade school, and even with college, I was under the radar. I flew under the radar. Like again, like how you said, like you could tell when someone's talking about you. I remember one day I was walking out the caf, and two young gentlemen were sitting by themselves as I was walking out. And so again, with Tuskegee University's caf, you got this exit and you got that exit. I was walking through that exit, so I had to like walk down a line of people, and then I can see them going like this, because again they were like, look. And they had hats on, but I could like their eyes were like tracking me as I was walking, and they were going like this. From that day on, I never wore that T-shirt again, and I was just like, "Dang, man, why?" And then I went to my room, I threw away that T-shirt, never wore it again, and from that day, I never went to the caf without a book bag. I never walked around the caf. In college, entering adulthood, I never walked around the caf again without my book bag.
So,
because
your book bag was to the front or to the back?
It was the book part was still to the back, but I would walk around and hold the straps above the protruding part. Right. Again.
Wow.
I didn't want any of that type of attention. I had that. I was lucky enough not to go through high school and my chest not be noticed. They noticed it one day senior year, and I played it off because I had on a coat. But I wore jackets in the summer, fall, winter, and spring in school. And then
bro,
it was
I have a story.
It was a lot.
I have a whole story.
Go ahead.
Because when you speak to my sister, she will confirm this. But like, there was one day we planned as a family to go to Six Flags, and I was super excited. My sister was in middle school, and she had a phase where she always wore jackets. She like, it didn't matter what the season was, she always wore this fleece zip up jacket. And so when we went to Six Flags, all I could think about was, again, frolicking. And my mom was like, my sister's name is Jade. She was like, Jade, you got to take off your sweater. My sister was wearing her sweater because she was insecure of her chest.
Your sister's like, BS, I ain't taking off nothing.
And she was like, her take it off. Amusement park with all these people. And I didn't know that parents love to do this. Like, oh, well, we're going home if you don't do this. Because low-key, they just wanted to go home anyway. But the point is, like, I'll never let my sister live that down, because we didn't go to Six Flags because my sister refused to take off the sweater.
Wow.
And I was like, you ruined my perfect day of fun. Yo, I was really distraught, but I saw early, I had a friend who had eczema, and he did the same thing. He wouldn't take off his jacket.
Yeah, a young lady in high school had eczema, and she wore covering clothes for a good grip of time, but she was also on the basketball team. So she it was split between big confidence, but once those basketball clothes come off, yeah. But that's crazy. But like, that was the only way that I knew how to not be noticed. Like, I would zip it up right there at that point, and maybe a little bit over, but it would stay right there at that point. And then it was just like, but then another brother on my dad's side, he his case of like his protruding chest is not as big as mine, but he gave me a piece of advice, and he was like, dude, but again, his chest is the way that it comes out is way much slimmer and smaller, much more blendable. But he was like, we're button up shirts. And I was like, you sure? He's like, dude, because the thing is, someone's going to come across and just go like this because that's what people do. So at that point, if they're rubbing and then they feel that button, where again, I have a part where like one piece of bone is just like that. He's like, if they do the button up shirt, they rub your chest, it's going to play it off. And I was like, you sure? He's like, bro, it works. And I was like, that's probably the best piece of advice that particular brother ever gave me. But from that moment on, I started wearing button-up shirts, and I saw what he was saying. Because like even then, like the first like week of wearing button-up shirts, I guess some girl just like did this, and I was like, I almost fainted because I was like, oh god. Because even at that point, this was high school. Even at that point, again, I'm still flying under the radar wearing jackets. And again, the only time I would take a jacket off is if I had a button up on.
Mm-hmm.
So one day she went like this, and I said, we're good. Oh, okay. Oh, thank God. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't have this. I've made it this far. And again, it really sucks. Like just to live like that, to know that you make one wrong move, everything that you built. I now see how millionaires feel. You make one wrong move, everything that you built is out the window.
Yeah.
And I oof, just looking at it, man, I need to call my therapist up.
Listen.
But that was weird. Like I said, I used to go home and be like, Elijah, you did too much today. Or Elijah, today was a good day. But I'm just like, bruh, a good day is me sitting down and not moving for each class. Once I get in that class, don't move. I don't like, again, this particular school, they were some tall mofos at this school. However, and this is high school and middle school. But sitting down, not like bringing attention to myself, that was a good day. Getting my 2 jokes in, or like defending myself, and then it actually stopping right there, that was a good day. But of course, like now, oh my gosh. And I'm just like, it's not, I mean, people say it's not flattering to have a smart mouth. It's like, I don't have a smart mouth. I have one. I'm not going to use it. Like, again, if I had the words that I have now back then, people wouldn't mess with me. People would actually think twice before messing with me. But, and again, I don't even do that now because I'm grown. I don't have to sit there and talk to you. I don't have to be in this class or anything like that, or in this environment. I could walk away now. So, which I do most of the time. But like, that was, and again, they was like, why do you wear jackets? I was like, because I enjoy jackets. And again, I was the freshest person. Like I had like at least 5 to 7 jackets that I could switch out during the week, so you'll never see me in the same jacket twice. And again, that was cool to some people.
Yeah.
The fact that he has this many jackets or whatever. And I was like, you don't even know the half of what I'm doing over here. But no, that was crazy. And I think again, like one thing that brought questions in grade school is when I didn't have a book bag. This was 12th grade when I had my first heart surgery going back to school. And again, they was like, you can't wear nothing on your shoulders because if you get pulled and it's not healed, you can split open, or it's gonna hurt a lot. So they were like, where's your book bag? And then at that time, my mom only told one teacher that I had heart surgery. And then I think like a week after school, I got comfortable with saying, oh, I just had heart surgery, because it was something cool. And so I had a scar to show for it and everything. I was like, you want to see my scar? Like I was the Joker or something. But that was different. And again, people didn't know I still wore jackets then. I get it. I get that, like the blending, and again the shoe thing. Like one pair of shoes didn't do it. Like again, you have like my ankle. Again, shoes are only made one way. They don't take into account for anyone that has something physically different going on with the foot. Shoes are made one way. And then again, one pair of shoes, two pair of shoes. In my case, it was one pair of shoes a lot of the time. But after the first month of wearing those shoes 5 days a week for
Yeah.
4 weeks straight, those shoes are over with. I'm putting massive amounts of pressure. My calluses are like making it more uncomfortable to even walk. I remember like some days I wouldn't even go to school
Mm.
because I couldn't take it. Like let's say let's say K through eighth, I was on public transportation. It would take 2.5, 3 hours just to get to school.
Mm.
I remember a lot of days in eighth grade because that's when the pain in my feet like started to go up. I was like, Mommy, I can't go to school today. She's like, why? I was like, my feet hurt too much. All the walking, all the bus taking, I can't do it today. And she's like, okay. And I was like, what? Not that I'm abused this, but you realize you just told me I could stay home. But no, she said, she was like, nah, stay home. Just you better not get out this bed. Like you better let your feet rest.
I will say, like towards college was difficult for like shoes
Mm,
and stuff like that because
mm-hmm.
I didn't realize. To your point about walking, like a shoe might be okay for like doing the walking that you do at school, maybe a couple flights of steps between a couple hours, whatever the case may be. But like when I lived in New York, my God, flat shoes were not it. Like I couldn't do sandals for that long because there were so many places I would want to see, and there would be several blocks that I'd have to walk. To your point about taking the bus, taking the train, there's a lot of steps. So I was just like, okay, I could see the importance of like finding shoes that capture shock, that do support whatever flat arches or no arches you have, just because like, you do have to protect your feet. And that's not just for people with Marfans. Obviously, it's a lot more because we have a lot more going on. But like, yeah, it's that's definitely a journey.
Like and again, I'm happy, even though a lot of stuff didn't structurally change when I got my 2 ankle surgeries. Like again, let's just say ankle bone is literally, it's supposed to be up here where your foot could rotate 360. Nope, it's right here. My foot can't rotate it, none. However, the fact that the doctor took the ankle bone and just did like this, that relieved so much pressure in just wearing shoes. Now I'm able to wear shoes that do have that little arch part, but it's not comfortable. I'm not fighting the shoe anymore. It's more so comfortable now. But even then, I gotta wear shoes with a little elevation because I still don't. Again, my ankle bone can cause the shoe to collapse back down, but beforehand, my bone was touching the ground even when I wore shoes. So like, again, I thank God every day because I'm allowed to spend that money to buy the shoe that suits me the best, and not necessarily settle because this is the amount of money that we had at the time.
Yeah.
Like, it was money first, comfortability second. Now it's comfortability first, money second. And I can't be happier. Like, I honestly can't be happier. Like, and even now I'm noticing that it doesn't hurt to walk long distances. I just choose not to walk long distances because I'm lazy. But it doesn't hurt to walk long distances. Steps aren't as bad. Like, again, these things are good to just feel. Like, again, I didn't have this feeling of what a good shoe meant in grade school, or just a lot of things. And again, even then, I was particularly made fun of because from the knock. Now again, knock knees, not like people I've seen
Mhm.
other people
Common.
with
That's
with
pretty common.
with knock knee, but now imagine having knock knee and your feet are collapsed.
Mhm.
Everything from the waist down looks bad. So finding a way to definitely like cope with that was
Uh,
it was a process.
I believe it. And I wanted to also, like you said something earlier that made me think about like the whole story of my mom and dad. Like a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times my mom is a little bit too honest, but she loves to tell the story of how she wasn't attracted to my dad when she first met him. Like she
Mm-hmm.
literally says that so often, and I'm just like, well, you can leave that detail out. But I think she says it simply because I ask a lot of questions about what my dad looked like. Like, was he knock-kneed, or were his feet like ours, or was his chest concaved, or any of these things? And she's always just like, yeah, he was knock-kneed, and yeah, he this, and yeah, he that. But like looking at pictures, I think my dad had a great way of camouflaging things, and to me, it didn't appear as if his chest was very unique. So
Mm-hmm.
I do think that I think the biggest issue we have is just that society doesn't leave a lot of room for like differences, and that it really does break down in everything that we experience. So like something like a plane seat being
Mm-hmm.
long enough, for someone who's 6 foot and over, it's like they're really not thinking about you. Yeah.
That's true.
So
Yeah, that's true. I agree. I can't fly. I nothing against Spirit, but can't fly them anymore.
mhm,
I'm at Southwest and Delta these days, so it is what it is. They provide that much more,
it
a
makes
little something.
it does.
But so moving on.
Mhm.
Let's So have you had any surgeries related to Marfan's?
I have never had any surgeries related to Marfan's.
So
Mhm.
when you go to the cardiologist, um, what are since you never had surgery, what are those conversations like? I would take it your aorta must be doing very well for itself if you've never had a surgery of any sort.
So part of the reason I was a little like apprehensive about this interview was just because I'd have to be transparent.
Mm,
I don't have the best medical history when it came to just visiting on the grounds of like check-ins, right? Like
mm-hmm.
it was always a very nerve-wracking experience for me to go into a hospital and have like 4 or 5 nurses just come in out of nowhere, or have people literally looking up what Marfan's is in front of me. So
I don't like that. I hate that.
I don't blame you, because it's probably been a while since school, and they're not, gonna spend weeks on subjects like Marfan's or heart
Mm-hmm.
differences. But like, I have not gotten checked up in a while. I'll just say that, in a while. I don't advocate for doing that, folks who are listening. I don't know if that makes me like not the best guest, but I will say I believe that there's a spectrum. I am very keen on alternative forms of medicine. So honestly, it's just finding like the right health provider that I feel I can trust.
I said, come on down to Texas, but I'm telling you, they gonna look at you and be like, all right,
I mean, I've watched the
good.
videos. I've been taking notes. I'm like, this man is good with this. But I'm honestly, especially now that I've turned 30, because my father passed away at 33, I am very much trying to advocate for my personal health. I'll say it like that. So like, COVID inspired me to start going to the gym. I was nervous at first about like overhead lifting and doing all these things, but I do believe, and I hate to say it like this, in a lot of senses I'm a rebel and I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that not going to the doctor is the best option, because it's not. I'm not saying that I'll never go to the doctor, because I will. But I am saying that for right now, I think it's really important for me to like learn my body and listen to my body.
Mm-hmm.
So I know certain chest exercises were not good because I would feel the tightness in my chest. But it was not common enough for me to stop doing exercise altogether, right? Like if I felt winded and completely like just there's this little tinge that I think that you feel when you do certain exercises that are like, oh yeah, I shouldn't have done that because that doesn't even feel right.
And I was say, let's reiterate for the people listening. Again, she's not saying don't go to the doctor. She's just making her personal choice on to when she's gonna go, she'll go. However, I do recommend, again, at least for that part, because again, this is a cardiovascular condition. This does affect the area of your heart, your aorta, and you don't know based upon either going to the doctor or just looking at anatomy. Your aorta is basically the majority, like that's the tube, that's the pump.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're choosing not to go to the doctor, listen to your body, as Jamie said, and as I tell you guys all the time. I'm in the gym constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I do the chest presses. I do the over the shoulder lifts and everything, basically everything that I'm not supposed to do. I do it. However, I listen to my body first and foremost. If there's, again, not necessary, if I'm at the point to where I can tell whether it's my heart doing something funny, like that chest area,
Mm-hmm.
or is it the pectoral, the pecs doing something?
Yeah.
And again, I'm just like, okay, I did work on my chest today. Doesn't feel like my heart. There's no pain, chest pain. There's that pec pain,
Mm-hmm.
to where I can feel my pec tightening up. And I'm like, okay, that's muscle development. We're okay. But as far like the pain that I got, whether it was in May of 2018 or November 2018, that was a very different pain. And again, I listened to my body.
Mm-hmm.
Something was not right. So again, in all means, work the gym in consideration. Listen to your body. When you're ready to go to the doctor, definitely go. I'm pretty sure he or she is going to be very surprised. And I'm praying and hoping, as I know now, that you're not going. I'm praying and hope that, again, of course, everything is okay. Like I said, you haven't had any surgeries. I pray that you actually don't have any, because the recovery, the downtime is just so what's the word? It just gets in the way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, I mean, I would say that's pretty good. Again, that's like me not going to the dentist till I came to Texas. I've never been to the dentist.
Never?
Until I moved to Texas. So from 1994 to 2017, I never went to the dentist. So
we all have our things. So the moral of the story is, please see your doctors and dentists.
Yeah, definitely.
Checked in. Also, please be active. You know what I mean? Like, keep your heart rate up.
And I think that's what I see in, like, say, some of the groups, some of the Marfan groups and stuff. People, this particular group of people, they are afraid of being active. And I think Marfans or non-Marfans, not being active kills.
Yeah.
And
I also want to just speak towards, like, again, mental health. Like, when you have something like Marfan's, it can really affect you. So something as small as taking a walk. When I say be active, I'm not saying, like, I'm not necessarily advocating for you not leaving your house, because I kind of am, because I do think being in nature is helpful. But taking a walk, literally, like, helping your heart rate to increase, but also, like, breathing in oxygen, being intentional about your breaths, that can really just help your mood. become a lot better, and just making that a part of like your daily ritual or like weekly habit. I think that's helpful in like eliminating, at least balancing a lot of the stuff that Marfan's comes with, because you don't have to like run a mile or go to the gym every day if that's not what you're into. But please take a walk. Just
and I think, like, again, I'm not a doctor. Well, we're not doctors. However, I just think that like a part of like your anatomy and what's going on is, if you haven't done something and your heart rate just shoots up, you're in shock.
For sure.
Again, so like if you're every day 60 to 70 BPMs and you've never been to the point of being at 125 or 150, which I have, it's scary, but I mean, again, I'm active, but like your body's not going to take that well. So again, with that being said, again, to the easiest of active activities, take a walk, jog. Actually, like there's no weights. It's just you and your heart. It's you, your heart, and your lungs and your legs trying to work at all at one time.
Jumping rope, it does help.
I can't jump rope, but I'm gonna try though. I'm gonna try.
My sister says the same thing, but I really do feel like, you know, when someone has very sensitive arches and like they're trying to build those, the thing is like a lot of the times people with Marfans are told not to be active, right? Like period, point blank, like just don't lift any weights, don't do that. But it's like, okay, there are tons of body weight exercises that will strengthen like necessary muscles in your body. Period, point blank, because at the end of the day, we do need core strength. We do need upper body strength. We do use our legs a lot. And by the grace, we're able to. So,
and again, we have big frames.
Yeah.
We're 6 feet, 6'1", 6'3", 6'9", 6'6", like 6'7". These are not.
Yeah.
These are. Again, we look slim, but these frames are pretty. They're big. So again, not having. Was it I'm not even gonna try to use the technical term, but again, not having that muscle to support that group, your body is going to feel like you're giving up on it. Like it's gonna feel some type of way. And again, you got to listen to your body. If you feel like your legs aren't strong enough, do those squats without any weights. Sit up and sit down on the couch. Like that's again.
And there are so many alternatives.
There is
as well. Like I'm not gonna spend a lot of time there, but like honestly, YouTube University will help, because they're like, honestly, like sometimes squats aren't the most comfortable position, because if your arches are falling, like that's already putting a lot of pressure where there's already pressure. So like there are, there are tons of alternatives where you can lay down and have the same like muscle group being addressed. So don't ever think that, I don't want to put too much pressure on my feet. It's just like you literally can do a whole exercise laying on your back. So, yeah.
So I'm about to say, you guys heard it here. It's more so just doing what you need to do to do the things you want to do. So again, if your leg is feeling weak, work out your leg. If your arms are feeling weak, work out your arms. I mean, again, we're not doctors. We're just telling you stuff that works for us, that are, again, working for us today. And we feel good about what we're doing. So again, listen to your body, do what you need to do, and you'll pretty much be okay. But moving on,